Hello everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's Reflexology Wisdom. And today we're going to continue with our series on explaining reflexology, how it works. And what we're going to do today is we're going to marry that first explanation that I told you about, the feet being mapped on the body being mapped on the feet. And we're going to add a little bit of research so that we can then give a great explanation to whoever wants to ask about reflexology, and it's got some evidence attached to the explanation as well. And the piece of research that I'm wanting to show you, there's actually two papers. I'll be putting things up on the screen in a little while to make things clearer. The first one was called Somatotropical Relationships Between Cortical Activity and Reflex Areas and Reflexology, a Functional Magnetic Resonance Imaging Study. In other words, they were taking photographs of the brain while reflexology was being delivered. And they were going to see whether certain areas of the brain lit up while the reflexes were pressed on the feet. And this kind of research is super, super, super exciting because you can't argue with a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine. It records what it records. Basically it does what it says on the tin. If something is happening in the brain, it will pick it up. Now, the guys that were doing this piece of research said that they were going to work three areas. They were going to work the small intestine, they were going to work the shoulder, and they were going to work the eye reflex. And when they pressed the areas for the shoulder, the small intestine, the eye, and they chose those reflex points because they seemed to be there was more agreement on those points than there were for any other areas of the feet as far as the foot charts were concerned. When they pressed these areas on the feet, then so did the area of the brain light up. And I'm going to be popping up some imaging just up there so that you can see how it was all done. Now, my whole joy of reflexology is that we can explain it. And so I was chatting with, in fact, I was having a coffee with Tony Porter a couple of afternoons ago, and he was telling me that Dwight Byers used to explain reflexology by saying, well, it's like a telephone call. And yes, it is, but that explanation on its own isn't enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of research and I'm going to marry it with the foot chart image of the body on the feet by saying that when precise areas on the feet are stimulated, it sends a message via the nervous system to the brain. Now we know that because of this paper. These areas, in fact, we've got it here. I'm going to show it to you on this point just here. These images here, they're going to come up even bigger and nice and clear up there. Those areas on the brain lit up from the messages sent by the feet. Now, this is then where I surmise that because those areas on the brain have lit up, that means that the body, or the brain rather, is being tricked into thinking there's a message from the body. We've sent it via the feet, but the brain is thinking that area of the body is sending a message. We are then the catalyst as reflexologists for sending that message, making the brain think there's something going on, and then the body will respond. The body, recognizing that there may be something out of balance in that area, will then take over naturally, send the healing responses to that area, sending the building blocks that need to be done for a repair, alerting the immune system for an infection. So basically, my explanation goes along the lines of by stimulating specific areas on the feet or the hands, we can send messages via the nervous system to the brain. The brain is tricked into thinking that there is something going on in those areas, and the brain then gets the body to respond in its own natural healing way. There we go. That's the explanation. Not quite finished yet, though. Because, sadly, this paper was lambasted by the medical world. They didn't like it at all. Well, it was one particular person. I'm not going to say who it was in the medical world. He didn't like it at all. And so he tore the paper apart. We're going to be looking later on in this series as to how important it is that research is conducted really, really effectively. We're going to be bringing Jackie James in. She has just had some research published. Her research is about getting research to be done better. And it is so important that research is done well, because what these guys didn't do, they didn't say if they were going to be working on reflexologists, putting reflexologists into the MRI machine. And the person that pulled this paper apart said, well, they would then know what was happening on the feet, and therefore that knowledge in the brain of, oh, yeah, that person's pressing on my shoulder reflex would then be enough to light up the area of the brain for an MRI machine to pick it up. Also on here, it didn't say whether they told the people or not what areas they were going to be working. So they might have actually told the people that these areas here, put that back up again, were going to be worked. So therefore they would know, even if they weren't reflexologists. And then the last bit, you could tell he was clutching at straws actually by this. He actually said that fMRI machinery is far too much in its infancy for research to be able to be done with it. And it's like, oh, good grief. Now we know that you're really clutching at straws. Now, the brilliant thing was these guys that did the trial went back to the drawing board and they said, you know what? Good point. They then wrote another paper. This paper is called Activity in the Primary Somatosensory Cortex. In other words, same sort of thing. Induced by reflexological stimulation is unaffected by pseudo-information, a functional magnetic resonance imaging study. In other words, they've actually said, and this goes to show how bloody brilliant reflexology is. They said, we are going to lie to the people that are receiving reflexology. We're going to tell them that this, that, and the other reflex, let's call it A, B, and C, are going to be worked on. But what we're going to do is we're going to work on entirely different reflexes. We're going to work on X, Y, and Z, for example. Now, I'm just quickly searching here to see if I can find quickly the areas that were worked on, and I can't right here, but I'll see if I can find it and pop it up on the thing just here. But basically, the right information still lit up in the brain. So when they were working on the X, Y, and Z reflexes, they lit up, not the areas of the brain that they had lied about. So it really does put reflexology on the map as far as the foot maps, no pun intended, are concerned. But also it means that we have got some evidence within our explanation about how reflexology works. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you've enjoyed how fascinating research can be to help us with our understanding of reflexology and how it can be incorporated into our explanations. Next week, I'm going to be going totally differently, and I'm going to be looking at some energetic explanations of reflexology. So if you have enjoyed today, do please like and subscribe. There'll be some buttons also. Oh no, they're coming at the end. But do like and subscribe and click the bell so that you get notified of new Wednesday's Reflexology Wisdoms as they come out. Take care, and thanks ever so much for watching.